Alright, let's continue. So, today we're gonna start with Angular. Okay, so let's go to slideshow, current slide, and I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible to everyone? Yes, OBS also supports that. Alright, so let us understand what is Angular. Fine. Why do we need Angular? And we will also have a look at something called as TypeScript. Okay. So basically, when it comes to creating MVC applications, we can do it using ASP.NET. Correct. We can create controllers, models, and views, and then go ahead and create that application. But that application has one issue. That is, the entire application resides on server, right? So when the request comes, the complete request needs to be processed on the server, and the response needs to be generated, and that response should be sent back to the client. Fine. So in order to serve those kinds of application, basically when you talk about server side applications, what happens is server resources will be consumed, and we have limited resources when it comes to servers. Correct. Whatever is present on the server, that same resource should be shared with all the clients. Correct. If let's say I'm having 4 GB of RAM, so that 4 GB of RAM is supposed to process the request of all the clients which are connecting with my server. So in order to avoid that, what happened is there was certain client side frameworks were designed for front end. So for the front end part of the application, instead of doing it using some server side technology like ASP.NET MVC, what we do is we take help of some front end framework like Angular or React. Angular is a framework which is initially created by Google, and later on it was open sourced, and it follows model view component style, not model view controller. It follows something called as model view component style. Okay. So using this Angular, you can go ahead and create the front end for your application. What do we mean by front end? Front end basically means the user interface for your application, wherein the user will interact with it. Fine. They will have some forms, you will have some different pages with which user is going to interact, but still we require a back-end application. Fine. Even though we are having the front end in Angular, we still require a big back-end server-side application. This time, instead of using MVC, we will use some kind of API like web API or some kind of service, say WCF service, or a web service, something like that. Any confusion to anyone as of now? What is Angular? So Angular basically allows you to create front ends for your application. That means user interface. You have a web API. Web API itself does not have any UI, correct? That UI you can create using any of the front end frameworks like Angular you can use, React.js you can use, Vue.js you can use. Fine. There are multiple other frameworks that can be used, but Angular is one of the popular frameworks that allows you to build your applications. And not just creating the HTML pages and all. With Angular you can do different things, like you can take care of uh, rendering the content. You can take care of something called as data binding. You can take care of things like form handling, event handling. Fine. And managing various services, doing things like dependency injection. All this is supported in Angular. It is also possible to convert an existing Angular application to a mobile application as well. We have something called as Angular Native that basically allows you to use an Angular application or a mobile device also. So if you create your Angular application, it's possible for you to use it either on a web, you can also use it on mobiles. So how do I get Angular? How do I install Angular? Now before you install Angular, you need something called as package manager. Just like in Visual Studio we have something called as a package manager, NuGet package manager we are having, correct? So Angular is basically available as a package. We need to download that particular package into our project, then we can go ahead and work with Angular. Now in order to use packages, there are different kinds of packages, package managers available. Like there is something called as npm, there is also something called as yarn, there is NuGet, fine, there is wget, fine. So there are multiple different package managers available. So there is one package manager called as npm. Npm stands for Node Package Manager. See, when it comes to JavaScript, generally you will write JavaScript in a page, and a browser is capable of rendering the JavaScript code. Node is basically a technology that allows you to run JavaScript outside the browser. So if you are having some JavaScript code, you don't have to open it in a browser, you can directly execute it with the help of Node. And Node contains one package manager called as npm, Node Package Manager. So first thing is we need to install Node Package Manager. To install Node Package Manager, what you can do is you can simply go to this particular URL, this one, fine. So you go to this URL, and from there you download Node, fine. There are multiple versions, you can download the latest version of Node. Now once you download and install Node, what happens is you will get something called as npm. So how do I know whether Node and npm is installed on my machine? So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I will go to command prompt, and here I will type a single command. I'll simply say node -v. This will tell me whether Node.js is installed on my machine or not, as well as the current version of Node.js. Right? I can also execute this npm -version. I can check which version of Node Package Manager is installed on my machine. So here Node.js is also installed, as well as npm is also installed. Npm gets installed along with Node.js. You can get Node.js from this particular website, fine, nodejs.org. Yeah, you can download this one, fine. With the long-term support, you can download and install it on your machines. Okay. Then once you install Node.js, next thing that you need to do is you need to create your Angular applications. Now when it comes to writing code for an Angular application, you can write the code in JavaScript, fine. JavaScript, you can simply go ahead and write the code, but we will not use JavaScript because vanilla JavaScript, it is very difficult to write, first of all. So what we do is we take help of a programming language called as TypeScript. Again, to install TypeScript, there is a command npm install -g, then you say TypeScript. This particular command will install TypeScript. Now this switch -g it will install it globally. If I don't use this switch -g, then it will only be available in the folder where I have executed that command. So I don't want that. I want TypeScript to be available across my system. So I will use this switch called as -g. Then to install Angular also there is a command. You say npm install -g @angular /cli. Fine. So this command will install Angular. Again, it will install it globally on my system so that I can use Angular in anywhere in my system. If I don't use -g, then I will only be able to use Angular in a specific folder where I have executed this command. Is this clear to everyone? So you can install the latest version, Rohit. We are not going to see a version specific feature, so you can go ahead and install the latest version. Fine. We will not be seeing things like progressive web apps and all, so you go ahead and install the latest version. We'll see the general concepts. Okay. So if I want to check whether TypeScript is installed on my machine or not, there is a command again I can execute, tsc. Fine. And then again I can say -v. This will tell me which version of TypeScript is installed on my machine. Right. Just like that, if I want to check which version of Angular is installed on my machine, I'll say ng-v. ng-version. Hey. Version command is there. Yeah, there it is. I can see that Angular CLI version 8 is installed on my machine. Fine. So I think the current version is 9 for Angular. Fine. So it doesn't matter. So basically we will be seeing only the general features of Angular. So we will not get into any specific feature of Angular that is specific to a particular version. How do we install TypeScript? We say npm install -g TypeScript. Fine. So this will install TypeScript. If I don't use -g, what happens is TypeScript will be installed into this folder called as Khalilullah. Fine. I won't be able to use TypeScript from another folder. Similarly, if I need to install Angular, I will say -g, then I'll say @angular/cli. This command. Fine. I have already executed it on my machine, but you need to do it on your machines to set up, the environment for working with Angular and TypeScript. Okay. Now let us understand what is TypeScript. TypeScript is, a programming language, not just a normal programming language. It has object-oriented features. When it is developed by Microsoft, fine, and it's totally open source, and it is the most widely used programming language when it comes to Angular applications. By default, any Angular applications that you are creating, they will use TypeScript as their programming language. And when you talk about TypeScript, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, right? Any valid JavaScript code is also valid TypeScript code. Right? Now TypeScript does not have something called as a compiler. It has something called as transpiler. So because we are not going to compile the JavaScript code finally again has to be executed by the browser. So TypeScript has something called as TypeScript transpiler, which is responsible for taking the TypeScript code and then converting it into JavaScript code for execution. Because by default, if you see JavaScript before version, before 2015 in JavaScript, we don't have built-in support for creating classes. If I want to create a class, it was not there. If I want to create an interface, it was not there before 2015. In 2015, a new version of JavaScript is released called as ECMAScript ES6. Fine. In that particular version, they have added these features. So before that also, if I want to create my Angular applications and all, thinking about those perspective, Microsoft came up with this particular language called as TypeScript. When it comes to TypeScript, what you can do is you can write the source code in TypeScript, then you transpile it, it gets converted to JavaScript. All the TypeScript files, code, when it comes to TypeScript, it is written in a .ts file. Fine. And this TypeScript code can be executed on the client machine as well as the server side with the help of Node.js. Node.js can also execute your TypeScript code. So, when you talk about features of TypeScript, TypeScript supports strongly types and static. JavaScript is basically a little bit dynamic in nature. When you talk about TypeScript, it is statically typed and language. So the features which we were having in C# for strongly typed typecasting and all, it is there in TypeScript. It also has object oriented features, like you can go ahead and create classes, properties, fine, and then interfaces, do inheritance. These things you can do. It can also check your compile time errors, fine, and by default browsers are not going to understand TypeScript, so what we do is we transpile it. We don't compile it, we transpile it, fine. So there is a difference between compilation and transpilation, fine. Compilation means converting from one form to a lower form, right? Converting from high level to say middle level, or converting from middle level to say low level. But when you talk about transpile, it basically converts from one high level language to another high level language. So if I write my TypeScript code and give it to the TypeScript transpiler, which is going to take that code and convert it into JavaScript code for me, so that my browsers can execute it. I hope this is clear to everyone. Anybody having any confusions? No, right? Okay. Now where can I... Yes, it is having additional features like creating classes and all that gets converted into JavaScript. I'll show you in a minute, right? We'll see the features. Don't worry, we'll see the features. So when you talk about TypeScript, you can write TypeScript code in any editor. You can also use Visual Studio, fine, for creating TypeScript files. You can use text editors like your Visual Studio Code, you can use, fine. So it's up to you in whatever editor you want to write the TypeScript code. When you are done writing, when you are done installing TypeScript code, you're done writing the TypeScript code, then you need to compile your TypeScript code. So you say tsc, then you give the name of the file. Now the TypeScript files will have the extension .ts. Once you execute this command, if there is no error, then it is going to generate one JavaScript file with the exact same name, fine. And then what you can do is you can go ahead and execute that JavaScript with the help of Node. So I'll just give you one small example. Okay, so let me go back here to my disk. it's like totally full here. Actually, you need to understand one thing, like, in order to work with JavaScript, fine, uh, we have certain features that you might have not explored in JavaScript, like closures. Fine, closures are something that allows you to create some, what do you call it? Some private variables. Fine. Generally, JavaScript has something called as variable hoisting features. If you want to avoid that in previous versions of JavaScript, you have to take help of something called as hoisting of variable. Basically, everything has some kind of hack file. Even if you talk about CSS also, earlier CSS was not having centering of content. There was no default way of centering the content in CSS, but the front end developers, they still used to do it. Why? With the help of certain hacks. Fine. So there was ways of doing it in JavaScript, but it was not out of box. For example, if I want to create a particular function and one variable, fine. Let's say two functions with one variable, fine. The variable should be shared with only those two functions. It should not be shared with any other function. That means I need a private variable with two functions inside along with it. In order to do that particular work, fine, we will have to end up writing a lot of code with JavaScript using closures. Getting it? So TypeScript simplifies all this work for me. So I don't have to worry about writing the closures and all those things anymore. It's going to allow me to use the object oriented style of programming, and it is going to convert it to appropriate JavaScript code so that you can work with it. Fine, I'll just show you in a minute. So I'm gonna go back here to command prompt. I'll say cd, open this in Visual Studio Code. First things first, I will create one file here. I'll simply say new file, and I'll give it a name as hello world typescript dot th. This is the name I'm giving to this file. And this file, I'm not going to do anything. I'll simply create a class. Say class, right? Say demo, okay? And we'll have a method also. Say public, actually void do work, say hello, and console.log, say hello. What is it? Hey, what happened? Let me just create a class for now. It's a little bit, say demo. That's all. Just a class, fine, nothing more. It's just a class. And then I'm going to go to terminal here. So I'll say terminal, new terminal. Terminal in Visual Studio Code allows me to execute my commands that I generally execute over here in command prompt. So here I'm gonna execute these commands. tsc, fine, hello world.ts. When I do that, basically one JavaScript file is created here. You can take a look at it. Fine. See here, this is a closure. Fine. So I can avoid writing all these unnecessary closures and I can go with this object oriented syntax. Getting it? Duplicate identifier. Anyways, we'll see. Are you getting it? So nobody wants to write all this code in order to create, let's just add one field also. Let's say private, fine, uh, say age colon integer. Name colon string. Okay. I'm just creating one variable here, and once again I'm going to transpile it. My JavaScript is generated. I can simply come back here to this JS file which was earlier open. Hey, where is it? Oh, I did not save it. Okay. Now if I go to this JavaScript file, hey, what happened? I'm going to delete this JavaScript file for a minute. Let's delete it. And let's give some value also to it. Let's say hello world. Right. And there it is. See, it's taking help of this keyword, creating one variable, assigning value to it. Fine. So all this JavaScript code, I don't want to do it. This is simpler for me to work with as a person who is familiar with object oriented programming, correct? Instead of writing all these unnecessary closures. Fine. If you are familiar with JavaScript, you might also be familiar with something called as closures. I don't know whether it was there in your JavaScript codes or not. Closures. Closures basically allows you to create some private variables for a particular function, and in order to do that you create one function inside another function. So here I have one function here, and inside that I'm having another function. Fine. And then immediately we are calling that particular function. We have something called as immediately invocable function expression, IIFE we call it in JavaScript. So I don't know, I did not check your JavaScript syllabus whether it was there or not, right? But this feature was there in JavaScript. So when I create a particular class and all, I can go ahead and create some variables, and it basically creates a closure for me, because the members of a class, two classes can have different members, and each member can be specific to that particular class. So that we generally used to do it in JavaScript with the help of closures, but it becomes very difficult at one point to go ahead and work with the closures. So these are different data types which are supported in TypeScript. TypeScript basically supports all data types which are already there in JavaScript, like Boolean, number, integer, string, um, void, and arrays. Fine, all these data types which were there in JavaScript are also supported in TypeScript, but there are additional data types like we have something here called as any. Fine. A new data type called as any basically stores any kind of value. Fine. You can put anything inside it. We also have support for now creating enumerations. Fine. Again, in the vanilla JavaScript, we did not have the support for creating enumerations. It was added again to ECMAScript in 2015, but before that it was not there. Fine. So again, TypeScript also provides me with those data types. Basically, all data types which are there in JavaScript are also there in TypeScript. So the way you create your variables in TypeScript is you can take help of this var keyword to create your variables. You say var, then you give a variable name, colon, its data type, then equals to, you can assign some value to it. Fine. Once again, I'm creating one more variable here, colon, then giving its data type, and then equals to its value. These are different variables that I'm creating. Here's an example of creation of an array. So you say var variable name, then you say data type, then you use this square bracket sets to indicate an array. Fine. You can also create an array list. There is something called as array, and then you specify the data type. Again, this generic concept is also applicable over here. So I can say that this is an array of numbers. Here's an example for creation of enum. You're saying enum directions north, south, east, west, and so on. We can also go with any data type. When you say any, that means in this variable called as test, I can store any type of value. I can also go ahead and use void data type for my functions. Here I'm defining a function nothing colon and its return type. Then we define the complete function over here. Now one additional keyword was introduced called as let keyword. Generally, when you create any variable inside a particular scope of a block, say you are creating a variable inside an if condition, then what happens is that variable will be hoisted. That means when the JavaScript code is loaded, at that time JavaScript engine is going to initialize that variable before the if condition. Even though it was created inside if condition, JavaScript will hoist that variable outside the if condition. So outside if also it was possible to access those variables. This let keyword will remove that particular restriction. What it will do is it will scope your variables to a particular block in which they are created. So if I create a particular variable inside a function, it will only be available inside that function, not outside that function. Similarly, if I create a variable inside an if condition, it will only be available inside that if condition. Same goes for your for loops and all. Wherever there is a block, if you are creating a particular variable, it will now be specific to that block. Here's an example. Take a look at this particular code here. I'm creating a for loop, and in the for loop we have this variable called as I. We are setting it to I equals to 0. Then after the execution of for loop, we are trying to access this variable. It is possible to do that in JavaScript, because when this code is loaded, this variable which is created as part of for loop gets initialized outside the for loop first. So this var I equals to 0 will be done before the for loop is initialized. That is the reason you will be able to access it. But we don't want such kind of thing. This variable should only be specific to this for loop. This can be done with the help of let keyword. All I have to do is replace this var with let. So if you're using let keyword, your variables will be scoped to a particular block. If it is, let's say, a for loop, it will only be specific to that for loop. If it is, let's say, an if condition, it will again be specific to that if condition. Just a second, guys, I did not check. I had a call. Give me a few minutes, okay? Let me just make this call and I'll continue. So I'm gonna share my screen back again. Okay. So let's just see this particular program, okay? So we'll go back here. We'll say new file. Let keyboard dot ts. You can name the file anything. I'm just giving it a name as let keyword dot ts, and I'll just do this. So for where I equals 0. Yeah, just hold on, I'll show you. 5 I plus plus. Fine. Console dot log I. Okay. And console dot log. Again, I'm gonna access I. See here, I create this particular variable here called as I, and I'm accessing it outside my loop. See there? I'm accessing it outside this particular loop. Its scope should be limited to this particular block, correct? It should start from this flower base and it should end at this particular flower base. But that does not happen with variables in JavaScript because of hoisting. This variable gets created outside the loop. So if I just run this particular program, say tsc, say let keyword dot ts, I got my let keyword dot ts js file. I'm going to run that. I'll say node let keyword dot js. See, I'm getting 0 1 2 3 4 and 5 also outside the loop. See that? But if I make a small change to this program, let's say replace this var with let, okay, and now if I transpile it, say tsc, actually this will give me the same output, because the thing is, if something is not compatible with JavaScript, it is going to use fallbacks. So if we just go back here to this .js, it's going to use that var keyword. In case if my JavaScript is not having anything compatible to use, then what it will do is it will switch back to, oh my god, let me just change it again to let, so no, there it is. I have one message saying that cannot find variable I. That is because I'm now using let keyword. Earlier I was using the var keyword, so it was compiling, but I replaced it with let now, and you can see that it's saying that there is one error. So now we cannot access this I anymore outside this loop, because it is now scoped to this particular loop here. So if I just fix that, let's say comment this particular line, and in the terminal, let's say cls, we execute tsc let keyword dot ts. My JavaScript file is generated here, let keyword dot js. I can simply come over here and have a look at it. Fine. And now I can simply say node let keyword dot js. I can see output all the way from 0 to 4. TypeScript also supports something called as type assertions. It's basically doesn't matter. It's basically data type. Any means I can store integer, string, or boolean, anything inside. It's not about the scope of the variable. If I say any, it's not about the scope of the variable. It's about the type of value you can store in the variable. Any is a data type in TypeScript. All variables have the same scope. It's decided based on where or the keyword let. It's not scope of a variable is not decided based on its data type. It's decided based on what keyword you're using for creating that variable, whether it is var or whether it is let. And there is one more called as constant. Fine, const, const, that is going to make your variables read only. Fine, once you assign the value you cannot change them. So that is also there in TypeScript. There are many features, like 30 plus features are there. We will not be exploring all of them. We'll just explore some essential features, that's all. So there is one more thing called as type assertion. Think of type assertion as typecasting, but you're not converting that variable into another data type. You're temporarily assigning it with a type so that you can work with it, right? So for example, let's say I have this variable here. Take a look at this, some value colon any. Fine, and then in this variable I'm storing a string. String data type has one property called as length, which will give me the number of characters. But see, this variable's data type, it is any. Fine, it's not string, it is any. So I will not have access to the length property. In order to access to this length property, what I can do is I can take help of type assertion. I can say convert it into string. Fine, like this, with the help of two angular braces and you know the data type. Then I will be able to access the property here called as length. Other way is I can also use this keyword called as. This was also there in C sharp. So you say some variable as string, then you use the property that you want to access. So let's just have a look at it quickly. So I'm gonna come here and say type assertions dot ts. Fine, so let say value colon any equals to hello world. If I simply try to access, say let length dot say count colon number equals to value dot, I'm not going to get this length property. But if I have a string variable from the beginning, say let name colon string equals say Syed. Fine, and if I try to do it for this variable, say name dot, actually username, say username dot, I have all access to all the methods which are there in string data type. So here if I say length, I'm getting access to length, getting it. But for this value variable that I have here, fine, if I try to say value dot, I'm not getting it, because it can be anything. It can be string, it can be number, and number will not have that particular property called as length. So in order to work with that particular property, what I can do is I can do type assertion. So I'll say string value, and then here dot, I'm getting access to all the types which are present inside the string, all the functions which are present inside string. So like this, I can say console.log, see total length plus, Other way I can do is I can simply come here and say this, say let count colon number equals to, I'll say value as string, then dot length. This way also I can simply assert its data type. I'm saying that value is actually a string, then I get access to its length property. Right. Now I can go ahead and say tsc type assertion dot ts, and then we say node type assertion dot ts js actually. Now I can see the length over here as 11. Other than that, we also have the feature called as arrow functions. Arrow functions, think of them as lambda expressions from C sharp. Here you can see an example. Fine. You say let addition equals to, then you're defining one arrow function here. I'm saying a colon number, b colon number, then goes to a plus b. That means this particular function will take two variables a and b of type number, does the addition and returns the value as fine. If I need multiple lines of statement, then I can also use flower braces. Here's an example on subtraction method wherein I'm having more than one line of code. So I'm saying a comma b, fine, goes, then I'm simply doing a minus b and then also logging this particular output. So similar to your lambda expressions in what do you call C sharp, wherein you can write some inline functions, you can do it now with the help of this arrow functions in JavaScript. Not JavaScript, actually TypeScript. Fine. I hope this is familiar with you already from C sharp. Do you want to see a demo on it? It's same as our C sharp lambda expressions. Anyways, I'll show it. Give it an extension. So I just created one arrow function here called as say hello, which takes a string and does string concatenation and returns it. I can simply say console.log say hello. If I need multiple statements in my function, I can do that also. Say hi equals say username. I can also specify the data type and I can skip it if I want. If I skip the data type, it's going to take any as the data type, and if I have more than one line of statement, then I'll have to use flower braces. So in this case, I'm gonna say var message colon string equals hi plus this username which is given, and we say console.log say hi, not hi, message. And again I can call this function also, say hi, and then pass in some message, say hello. Go ahead and transpile it, say tsc, and then say arrow function dot ts, and you say node arrow function dot js, and there's my output, hello and hi. There is also another type of loop introduced called as for of loop. It's similar to a for each loop in C sharp, wherein you can run it on a collection. Fine. So you say for, then you specify one temporary variable, then you say of, then you specify your array in which you are querying. Fine. So this is similar to your C sharps for each loop. The syntax is a bit different, and this was earlier implemented again with the help of iterators in JavaScript. Again, that we don't no longer have to create our own custom iterators. We can simply take help of this particular for of loop in order to work with an application. Constant, because the value of this particular variable, fine, it's not changing. You can also use let if you want, but generally when a particular variable's value is not supposed to change, you can go ahead and use constant. Fine. So once I take a value and assign it, after that, this value is not going to be changed in this temporary variable. Next time when my loop executes, once again it takes a value and creates this variable. So for that reason, it is recommended you use a constant instead of using let and var keyword. Again, you can use that let and var if you want, but the best practice is you use constant. We haven't discussed constant actually. That's also one data type. So let's take a look at this. Now create a new file here. Just a second, guys. Okay, so what I was going to do, for of loop, right? So here I'm gonna create a new file, say for of loop dot ts. Let me create an array quickly. I'll say names colon say string array. And this is how we create an array. We say data type, then two square braces, and then after that we can specify the values for the array. So here I can say Jojo, Sam, comma Sarah. Right. So I have my array here, and now I can use for of loop. I'll say for let n of names, and then do something with this n variable. Fine, I can say console dot log say n. Fine. Now we go ahead and compile it tsc and then we say node saved it. Let's see. Okay, there it is. Now let's go ahead and run it. There's my output. List of all the names I'm getting back here. We also have something called as template literals that basically allows us to create strings. Generally, in order to create strings from multiple variables or using string concatenation, earlier it was a little bit difficult to do that particular work, but now with the help of template literals we can easily do this particular work. In order to use template literals, basically we will take help of something called as backtick. Backtick is basically the key above your tab and below the escape. Fine. Above the tab key and below the escape on the keyboard, whatever key that is present, fine, that is backtick. It is looking like, if you take a look at it, it's looking like what do you call, a single quote, but it's not a single quote. Fine, this is a special key which is present on your keyboard, that is located exactly above the tab, fine, and below the escape key on every keyboard, fine. So using this you can create some template literals, you can access some variables, fine. And you can simply use them as part of the strings, you don't have to do string concatenation, fine. Here's an example. I have two strings. One is employee name, another one is message. I'm creating this message, I may want to concatenate this employee name with this particular message. Fine. So instead of doing string concatenation, I'm using a template literal over here. I'm saying backtick, then a string, then I'm using one variable. I'm saying use one variable called as employee name. So its value will be added over here. It is also possible to write multi-line string statements. Earlier, if you are writing multi-line string statements, you are supposed to use, what do you call, plus symbol to go and write the next line of statements. But now with the help of this template literals, you can go ahead and write multiple lines of statements directly. So let's just have a look at it. Then we will start with Angular. Fine. So let say first name colon, so string equals to say let last name colon string equals say Syed. Now I want to create a full name variable, so I'll say let full name colon string, then you say equals to full name is, generally this is how you do it, you say plus first name plus, you give a space, then you say plus last name, correct? This is how we do it traditionally, but this work can now be done with the help of template literals like this. So I'm going to comment out this statement, and this is how I'm going to do it. So first of all, I'll use template literals, fine. So two backticks from my keyboard I have added. This is not single quote, this is backtick, fine. Then after that I'll say full name is, now I need the value of this variable called as first name, so I'll simply say dollar, then two flower braces, in that I will simply write the name of my variable first name, space, again I need the value of second variable, so once again I'm gonna say last name, like this. Let's print it out, console.log, say full name. Now we'll again go ahead and transpile it. We'll say tsc template literals.ts and node template literals.js, and there's my message. So this is way lot simpler and easier than doing string concatenations. Imagine if I have to do it with the help of 5-6 variables, it gets pretty difficult, and it's quite common that you might end up making some mistakes in it. But with the help of template literals, now it is easier to do this particular work. It is also possible to create interfaces. Fine, you can go ahead and create an interface. Here's an example for an interface. You say interface, then you give a name for the interface, then you define some types inside that particular interface. I'm defining one variable here called as full name. Fine. And in an interface, everything is public by default. Fine. When it comes to interfaces over here, fine, interfaces will not have any private members in TypeScript. All interfaces will have public members only, and none of the members in an interface can have any definition. You can simply declare the members inside the interface. Here's an example of an interface. Then we are creating one object here called as obj, fine, of type person, and then initializing it with some uh, field. You can initialize it here, or you can initialize it later on also. It is also possible to create classes. Classes you create with the help of class keyword find, and then you give a class name. In a class you can have some variables, you can have some methods also. Fine, you can have a constructor as well as you can have some properties inside a class. I hope you're familiar with the concept of classes from C Sharp, right? It's quite similar, but the variable declaration syntax is a bit different. Here's the difference of the variable declaration syntax. You say variable colon the data type, fine. And if you want, you can also assign it with some value. And in C Sharp and other programming languages, you say data type, then space variable name. That variable declaration syntax is different here. You can go ahead and create a class. You can also have a constructor in the class. Here's an example of a constructor in the class. We have one constructor which takes string as a parameter, and then we assign this particular string over here to the variable called as name. Fine. To create a constructor, you use the constructor keyword for the class. It's not the class name here. We generally use the constructor keyword itself to create a particular constructor in a class. You can also have some functions. Here's an example of a function. We're creating a function, and return type we are declaring it as void, and then this is the code for the function within the class. You can also go ahead and create objects of the classes. You say let object obj equals to then the type of the class that you're having. Fine. You can also access the fields which were there in the class. By default, all the members of a class are public. You have to explicitly make them as private and all. So I can access any of these members. So let's just go ahead and see how we can create a class. So I'll just come back here and say uh, classes demo dot ts. I'm gonna create a class here, say employee, and then we'll say id colon number. I'm not going to initialize any values. Say name colon say string. That's sufficient for me. So then we'll also have display details method. Its return type is going to be void, and this is what my method is going to do. Console dot log, and I'm gonna use backticks, and then I'll print out my message. Say id equals to id and comma name equals to, then again name. Since I'm referring to the members of this class, this is the practice that is followed generally. You say this dot, be explicit and specify. And when the class is created, let's say I want to initialize id and name, so I'll simply say constructor, and then I'll say id colon number and string under this name colon string. And we'll say this dot id equals to id variable, this dot name equals to name variable. So we just quickly created one class here called as employee with two fields, one constructor and a method. Let's go ahead and create an object of it. I'll say let emp equals new employee and assign the value of name, say id and name. Say id is 101 and name is going to be Jojo. And now I can say emp dot display details. So printing out all the details of that employee. Let's say tsc, then classes demo.ts, node classes demo.js. There it is, my id and name. I can also go and have a look at this code. Fine. Again, it's creating a closure with the help of immediately invocable function expression. You can see over here. Access modifiers are also there. You have public, private and protected. By default everything is public. If you want, you have to make them explicitly as private and protected. It's similar to your C and C++ rules, public, private, and protected. Here's an example. If you want a particular field to be private, you can use the explicit keyword as private. It is also possible to create properties. In order to create properties, basically you'll have to define two methods, one get and one set method. So in order to define a getter, we create a method called as get, with using this keyword called as get, and then we specify the name for the field that we want. Fine, then we return back a particular field. Here we are returning this particular field. Set also you can create, you say set, then you specify the name of the field, and then you specify what value you want to set. So we take this value and then simply assign it over here. Then later on you can access these fields directly here. So for example, if I just go back here to this same classes demo, and I'm gonna copy this particular class that I'm having here, and Control C, say properties demo.ts, and I'll paste it. Now I'm gonna get rid of the constructor and everything else. Let's say I want a property for ID, I want a property for name. So first of all, I can make them as private, and the convention that we follow is generally we use underscore as the prefix. So private, then underscore name. Then if I want, I can define a get and set. I can say get ID, fine, and then we'll simply say return this dot underscore id variables value. So I'm creating a get accessor for id. I can also have a set accessor. I can say set, fine, say id colon actually value colon say number, and then I can say this dot id actually underscore id equals to value. So this way I'm creating a property over here for id underscore id field. Same thing I can do it for the name field. So let me just copy this and paste it here, and we'll change it with name, and here also for set I did not give it a name, so name, and this is going to be string, and we say this dot name we will return, and we'll assign it to this dot name, like this. And here also not this dot id, it is underscore id and underscore name. Now I can go ahead and create an object of this employee class. So here I'll say let emp equals new employee, and then assign the values. Actually there is no constructor. Let's define a default constructor here. And then I can say emp dot id property I can access, assign it some value, emp dot name property I can access, assign it some value, and then finally say emp dot display details, this way. There it is. Now let's clear out and then say tsc, and then specify here properties demo. Actually, when it comes to JavaScript, every function will have by default a property called as name. So that is going to cause an issue with us. That is basically the name of the function itself. So when you simply try to use name, it gives compile time errors. So let's just write emp name. Just a second. TSC. How? Let me just. Um, T-ES 5. Yeah. TSC properties. TS TS This time I'm specifically saying that convert it to ECMAScript version 5 of JavaScript, because the previous version of JavaScript uh, does not support creating any accessors for getter and setter. This time I've explicitly mentioned it that I'm targeting this particular version of ECMAScript, that is ECMAScript version 5, and now I can go ahead and run it. Say node properties dot change, and there is my output. ID as well as name is printed on the screen. So you can also specify which version of JavaScript you want to generate. So I'm saying I want it ECMAScript version 5. There are various versions of JavaScript that you can use. It is also possible to do inheritance. You can inherit from you know a single class at a time. Here I'm saying that this class called as employee, it inherits from another base class called as person. Now in order to do inheritance, we use this keyword called as you know extends. That's like in JavaScript. Fine. And within the constructor of the child class, you should always be calling the base class constructor using the super keyword. So I think you are already familiar with this concept from your JavaScript. So that's how you can define inheritance. Now when it comes to other features like what do you call it, interfaces you can implement in your classes. Here's an example of interface implementation. You're simply saying implements iEmployee interface. You can implement multiple interfaces, fine, but when it comes to inheritance, you can only inherit from a single class. Again, that same ambiguity issue arises. So at a time you can only inherit from one single base class, but you can implement more than one interface if you want. And when you're implementing an interface, whatever is defined inside that interface, everything should be defined inside this class. See here, the interface was having definition of two different properties, two different fields and one method. My class should also have two different fields and one method of the same data type and same names. So that is again the same rules which comes from object oriented programming is also applicable over here. Do you want me to show you this inheritance and interface implementation, guys? Assigning values to private members. For which one, Srinivas? I did not see your message. For classes you are saying? Properties. Get and set accessors that you generally create in C#. Remember properties. That's what we did over here. Created one get accessor for ID property, set accessor for ID property, get accessor for name and set accessor for name, like that. Now guys, do you want to see the inheritance example also, or you are comfortable with what is there in this slide? Anyways, I'll just show you, not a big deal. Fine. Say new file inheritance demo.ts, and we'll say class, say person. Fine. Person class, let's say, has protected, say first name, or say full name,
colon string, and a constructor that basically takes say full name of type string, and then initializes this dot full name equals to full name, like this. Then I go ahead and create one more class, a class employee. Fine. Extends person class. Alright. Then you go ahead and define any specific field, say um, id colon number. Okay. And then a constructor which basically takes id colon number and comma string string, and there is a little bit of spacing also. Then we'll simply say here super. Using super we pass the value to the base class constructor. Here I need to pass this name field, so I'll simply say name, and then I'm going to write the rest of the code in the constructor. So I'll say this dot id equals to id, and then we can have a function also, say function print print details void and console.log, and we'll simply say id is there in that base class object, and id plus space plus this dot name, like this. You can go ahead and create an object, say let e equals new employee, and pass in 101, say Jojo, and then you say e dot print details. That's right. Anyways, I already did it. TSC inheritance demo and node inheritance.js. Okay, I did not save it. I'm sorry, I did not save that file before doing anything, so let me just recreate it. No, there is my output 101 and Jojo. This way you can also go ahead and create an interface and implement that interface also in your classes. Fine. To implement an interface you use implements keyword instead of extends. Fine. Anyways, that is basically TypeScript. Let's discuss about Angular now. Fine. Till now we have been only exploring TypeScript because Angular is going to use TypeScript as the programming language. One more thing means, okay, I got signed out. Just give me 1 minute. So let's come back here. Now let's talk about Angular. So when you install Angular, basically you're gonna get something called as Angular CLI. Angular CLI is like your, .NET CLI, wherein you get certain commands for executing your applications. So CLI in Angular is going to provide us with a command line interface for creating a new application. Fine. Wherein we can generate an application, we can start an application, we can build, we can run the application. All those things we can do with the help of Angular CLI. Now Angular CLI you can access with the help of command called as ng. Fine. Using ng you can execute various commands with Angular CLI. Now there is a command called as new, which basically creates a new project for us. We need to give a name for that particular project. There is a command called as ng build, which basically compiles the current project. You can give it project name also if you want. Fine. If you want to run the tests which are there in your project, then you have ng test. Angular projects by default will have one test framework called as Jasmine, and there will also be one test runner called as Karma that is used for testing Angular applications. You can write tests similar to unit tests which we generally write in C sharp. Then you can specify the project name. There is also one command called as ngserve. Fine. This particular command runs your Angular application on a local host, and you can simply specify the project name also if you want. But if you are currently present inside a particular project, in that project you don't have to give the project name, you can simply say ngserve. So let us see how we can quickly create an Angular application and how we can run it. So I'm gonna go back here and cd dot dot. I'll create a new folder. Say new folder demos. Fine. Need it cd angular demos, and here I'll open I'll just execute this command ng new, then say hello, actually hello world Angular. This is the name I'm giving to my project, hello world Angular. Now it's asking me whether you want to allow routing in your project or not. Yes, I want routing, so I'll say yes. Fine. Then what kind of CSS you're writing? Are you writing plain CSS, or you're using any CSS preprocessors like SCSS, SAS and all? I'm not going to use anything, I'll simply say CSS. Now in order to create an Angular application, you're gonna need internet because it will install certain node packages. Fine. And for that it needs internet. It's gonna take some time to download all the packages, and once it's done, Generally it does not takes this much time on my PC, but right now it's like heating like anything. Okay. uh, Now one more thing actually, I'm having git ignore file here. I need to modify it. Node underscore modules. I'm just adding this folder name here called as node underscore modules. Fine. Basically, this node underscore module is the folder which is downloaded just now from internet. So when I'm sending it to GitHub, I don't want this particular folder to be included because it's going to be a very big folder. Fine. Whatever is present in this folder can be installed once again by simply executing this command npm install. This command will restore all the packages which are there in my current project. Fine. So I don't have to send those packages to my GitHub. So I'm simply removing that. In git ignore I'm adding that. Okay. So here also I think it's already there. Okay. Node underscore modules. Right. Now how do I run this project? So first of all I have to switch to the directory of my project. I will switch into my project directory. Let's first clear it. I'll say dir. I have my project directory hello world angular. I'll switch into that project. I'll say cd hello world angular, and then here I can execute a command ngserve. Fine, this is going to first execute ng build my project, then finally run my project. So I'm going to say ng serve and it's going to start my project. See, it's compiling my project. It's same as first executing ng build for compiling the project, then saying ng serve. So build is successful, there are no build errors for now, and my project is now running on localhost 42,000. I can copy this port from here, go to my browser and paste it here. There is my Angular application running on localhost 42,000. I just get my welcome page, nothing more. By default this welcome page is there in my application. Fine. So my application is hosted and it is running, and I can see the output also in the browser, and here it is running. Fine. And I can also stop my application by pressing Ctrl C here. It will ask me whether you want to terminate or not. I want to terminate. I'll say yes. Fine. I can also open this project in any editor. I can just open it in Visual Studio Code. Let me close this code and I will say code space dot in the folder of my project. This is my project folder. I'm saying code space dot. Okay, that will open up the current folder in Visual Studio Code. Here is my Angular project. The entire project is available over here. So let's understand what is there in this particular project. First of all, we have a file called as packages.json. This packages.json is basically a file which contains information about the different packages which are installed in my application, different node modules which are installed in my application. Fine. So all the list of those modules are present over here. So whenever I need to restore any of these packages, I can simply say npm install and it will take whatever is present in the site, this packages.json. It will parse and generate this packages log.json and finally install all the packages which are mentioned here. Then I also have one more file over here called as tsconfig. This is the TypeScript configuration for this particular project. Fine. I can have multiple configuration for this particular project, like what is the target version of ECMAScript. It is going to convert this particular TypeScript code into ECMAScript version 2015. Like that, the TypeScript configuration for this particular project is present in TS config. Then we also have TS lint. This is basically for styling information. Find how the styling of the TypeScript code should be done for your application. Fine. So all those rules are defined over here. Like for example, component class prefix, whether every component should have the prefix of the class name or not, that is mentioned over here. Fine. If you scroll down a little bit, fine, it gives order, how the orders of how the members of a particular class should be defined. First the static fields, then the instance field, fine, then the static methods, then the instance method. This is how the order of the members of a class should be there. Fine. So like this styling information is defined inside this TS lint. Okay. Then we also have one more file called as karma.config.js. This is basically the test runner for unit tests in Angular application. It contains the information about how to run the test, how to display the results of that particular test. So when the tests are run, basically it is going to run it on and display it on this particular port number on my local host in a browser called as Chrome. That configuration goes into karma config. There is also a file called as angular.json. This contains information about various projects which are there in my application and which project to start with. So here it basically says that there is a project called as hello world angular. Fine, I can just collapse it here. Fine. And within this particular project I can again see what are the different things which are present. For example, I have a startup file, index file, which is present inside source/index.html. I have a main module for this particular file called as src.main.ts. So like that, Angular specific configurations will be there in this particular file. There is also assets. It's mentioning that whatever is present inside these two folders. Fine. There is a file called as favorite icon.ico and assets folder. These are going to have certain images and all. Where are the styles located for the current project? Where are any JavaScripts which are present for the current project located? All that information is present over here. And if we scroll down a little bit more, we can also see what happens when this particular project is served. Fine. It is going to serve this particular project in a browser is going to be my target. And if I see down below here, there is also test configuration, like how the test should be run. It is going to use the karma .config.js file in order to configure my tests and run it. Fine. And how the TypeScript configuration should be done, I mean what styling information should be used for TypeScript, how many spaces should be there after the variable name, how many enters should be there. All that configuration is present inside this files that is also referred over here. There other than that, I have few folders over here. One called as src. This is the folder where the entire application code will be present. Then I also have a folder called as node modules. This particular folder basically contains all the npm packages which are required in order to run this particular project. There is also a folder here called as E2E. This basically contains end-to-end tests or the automated test we call them. All of them will be present inside this particular file. Now let's go back and understand what are Angular applications. Now every Angular application is built up of certain things. There is something called as modules. There is something called as components, templates, metadata, and data binding, directives, services, and dependency injection. In every Angular application you are going to see these things. These basically acts as the building block for an Angular application. Now let's understand them one by one. When you talk about modules, every Angular application is made up of multiple modules. By default there will be one module in every application. Fine. And the name of that module is going to be app module. Fine. Every application basically is going to have one or more module, and by default when you create any new application you get one module called as app module. Fine. And this particular module will be present inside a file called as main.ts. Fine. All modules will have a decorator called as ng module. Fine. We'll talk about decorator in a minute. Think of a decorator as an attribute. Remember attributes from C sharp? What will attributes do? Attributes from C sharp. Yeah, Srinivas, what are attributes from C sharp? Srinivas is here. Yogesh, what are attributes from C sharp? Why C sharp? We are studying Angular. Why Syed? Why are you bringing C sharp here? Ah, that's an example of an attribute. What are attributes? Sridharshi, that's an example. Required as an provides metadata at runtime to the framework so that it can decide some make some decisions. Yes, yes, yes. So here uh, we have decorators. Fine, decorators are similar to attributes from C sharp. Fine, they provide some extra metadata. So there is one decorator here called as ng module. This decorator is added on the app module. Fine, app module is nothing but a class with this decorator called as ng module. We have just seen how to create a class, correct? So within that class you will have this particular attribute called as ng module. Then we also have something called as components in an application. An Angular application can have one or more components. Think of a component as a user interface element, like a menu. Fine, a menu is a component. Fine, and a menu can have some user interface, like something which is displayed, some HTML it can have, some CSS it can have, and it can also have some code associated with it. So each UI element in an Angular application is referred as a component. A component is basically going to have some HTML, it is going to have some associated CSS and some JavaScript code together. Fine. And by default in every Angular application we will have one component also called as app component. Fine. All the components and everything in an Angular application should be part of a module. So by default this component called as app component will be part of a module called as app module. In a single module I can have hundreds of components, and in a single Angular application I can have hundreds of modules. Fine. We can also have templates. Every component can have some HTML template associated with it that defines the user interface for that particular component, and you can specify the URL of that particular HTML page which should be used as template for the component. You can give metadata about the classes. If you talk about this component and module, both of them are going to have some JavaScript code, and that code will be present in a class. So in order to distinguish between a component and a module, you take help of metadata, which is given again with the help of something called as decorators. So a component will have @component decorator, a module will have @ng module decorator, and both of them are classes. There is also data binding, which is part of Angular, so that you can take the values which are present inside your classes and bind them directly with the user interface elements like labels, text boxes and all, which is present in your views. Angular also contains something called as directives that basically controls the behavior of your HTML elements, like for the particular HTML element should be visible or not, how many times a particular HTML element should repeat or not. Like that you can control with the help of directives like ng if, ng for, ng switch, etc. are some of the directives which are present in Angular. Angular applications can also have some services, and the services are injected at runtime also. Just like in ASP.NET application, we can have services being injected at runtime. Same thing I can do for my Angular applications. So the code which is reusable, which should be reused with multiple different components, I can put them inside services and simply inject them with the help of dependency injection. Fine. And every service in Angular is again a class, and that class will have a decorator called as @injectable. Fine. So Angular basically supports dependency injection also. In your controllers you can inject the dependencies with the help of services. And once again we follow that same approach, constructor injection, that we generally do it in ASP.NET. So dependency injection is also built into Angular by default. We don't have to use any special framework for it. It is part of Angular as the technology. This is the project structure. I already spoke about this project structure and all these files, so I'm not gonna speak about them. But there is some files which are present in src. There is one folder called as assets, where you can keep some static resources of your application, like some images and all. There is a folder called as app, where the source code of your application will be present. Fine. There is a folder called as environments, wherein you can define the configuration for your project. Fine. Some environment variables and all you can define for the project, which will be loaded at runtime. There is a file called as index.html. This is the file where the execution is going to start up with. So when your Angular application runs, it is going to load up this particular file called as index.html. There is a file called as main.ts, which basically contains the app module for the application, the first module which will be there by default in the application. There will be styles.css, where you can define some styles for your application. Fine, in case if you want to define some custom styles for the application and all. There is also polyfills that take care of cross browser issues, so that whatever JavaScript code you are writing in Angular does not result in incompatibility issues with different browsers. Karma.js defines the configuration for Karma, and test.ts defines the test configuration for the entire application. This is for test runner, test karma.config.js as well, whereas test.js defines the global information about the Jasmine unit test. Fine. Jasmine is the framework which is used for unit testing. Let's talk about app module. Fine. Instead of taking a look at this app module here, I'm gonna go to code and let's take a look at app module there. So if I go to this source folder, if I expand this folder, I can see over here there is a file called as main.ts. This main.ts is the file which is responsible for bootstrapping my application. If you see over here, when my Angular application starts, it is going to load up one module called as app module. Take a look at this app module. It's going to load. An app module is present inside this particular file, app.module file. So at the app folder, app.module file contains a module called as app module. So when my Angular application runs for the first time, it is going to load up this HTML page, and it is going to load up this particular app module, which is going to be the starting module for my application, app module. Then if I go to this app folder, if I just expand it, I can simply go to this app.module.ts, and here I can see that there is a class called as app module. Export class app module. This particular class can have one or more components as part of this particular class. Fine. You can have multiple components in a single module. You can have multiple directives and all those things as part of a single module. We are exporting it so that it is accessible outside this particular module. What happens is, if I don't write export, then this class will be specific to this file, but I want that particular module to be loaded over here in main.ts. So for that reason, we are also using a keyword called as export, so that we can access it outside the current scope. Then here there is one decorator, this one. Fine. @ng module. In this decorator, we are specifying, we are declaring different components of our application. We're saying there is a component here called as app component, which is again imported from another file called as app.component. Then we are also loading up certain modules like the browser module, routers module. Then we have providers section wherein we will specify what are the different services which should be added using dependency injection. Any service that you want to add using dependency injection in Angular goes into providers section. There is also bootstrap that tells me which is the startup component for this module. So when this module is loaded, which component should start first? I'm saying the component that should start first is app component. Fine. Now let's go and see what is this app component. When you talk about app component, here there is one file app.component.ts. If I just go to this file, this is again a class here. See this? Export class app component, and this class is basically having one field called as title, which was set to hello world Angular. Now this class this time is having a different decorator called as component decorator. This component decorator is specifying few things like where is the HTML present for this particular class. I'm saying the template for HTML is present inside app.component.html. Where are styles present? I'm saying style URLs, that is the list of style files are these app.component.css. See here, there is app.component.html, there is app.component.css. CSS file is empty, HTML file is having few things. Other than that, there is also something called as selector. Fine. In order to add this component to my HTML pages, I'm going to use this selector called as app-root. Using this, you can add it. If I just go over here to my index.html, you can see here we have added that component app-root using this selector. So whenever I need to add a component, I can specify its selector in my HTML page. So if I have one more component, I want to display its content here, I can simply add that component selector. And this decorator is again present inside one built-in module. We are simply importing it. We are saying import this component directive from @angular/code. This is a built-in module from which we are importing it. Now let's take a look at app.component.html. Actually, we are going to skip that app.component.html. Let's create our own component. Let's say hello component we will create. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of all of this code. I'll go to terminal, say new terminal. Now I can create a component by using this command ng generate. Fine, and you give a component name, say component, give a name to it, say hello component. Fine, I'll simply hit enter. Ng generate component hello. It basically creates few files for me. There will be one HTML file created so that I can write some HTML code for my component. There will be one TypeScript file created so that I can write the logic for my component. There will be one CSS file created where I can define the styles for my component, as well as there will be one spec.ts file. This will contain the unit test for that component. So we are not going to write unit test, so we'll not touch it. So if I go over here to this app folder now, there is again one folder called as hello. If I go to hello folder, I have hello.html. See there, hello.component.html, which is having hello works. There is also one style sheet. Fine, hello.component.css plus hello.component.ts. If I see this hello.component.ts, it's having the URLs of my HTML as well as my CSS file, plus one one class also defined over here. In this class, by default there is one constructor. I'm going to add one field here, say page title. Fine, say colon, or say message colon string equals to this is hello component. Fine. Actually, since I'm assigning it any value, I don't even have to specify its type, so I can simply skip that. And one more thing, when it comes to strings in JavaScript, we can write strings in double quotes as well as single quotes. But when it comes to Angular, single quotes are preferred for strings. So I'm gonna put it in single quotes. Okay, here it is. So I'm just creating one variable of type string. Its data type is based on this assignment. Fine, it's having this value. I want to display this variable's value in my HTML page here. So I'll come back here and simply create an h1 tag, and then in this h1 I will simply put these flower braces and then simply write the name of this variable, message. Now this is the component that should be displayed wherever my application is starting, and to render this particular component I need to use this selector app-hello. So I will go to index.html and comment this one and put mine, say app hello, like this. Now I will simply come here to terminal and I will say ng serve. Again, my application is running on localhost 4200. I'm going to open it, and there is an error. Yes, I think I know what is the problem. The thing is, when my application is starting up, it's no longer starting with app root component, it is starting with app-hello component. So what I should also do is mention what is my startup component. So if I go to app module here, my startup component is mentioned as app component. So I will change it with my hello component that I have created, hello component. So I'll have to just make a change in this file and save it. It will automatically recompile my application. I don't have to build and run it again. Now here is my output. I can see that this is hello component message printed. NG, not DG. So bootstrapping, all this I have discussed. When you talk about components, you can just take a look at this Facebook page also, fine, wherein we are having a post, fine. Each one of these things is a separate component. Like this like button, fine. It has some HTML, some code associated with it, some styles associated with it. This share section, again it has some HTML associated with it, some styles associated with it, and some logic associated with it. Comment section, fine, again it has some HTML with it, some logic and some styling. If you talk about this also, fine, this image and all, fine, this text and image, again this is a component. So a single application can have hundreds of components. When you talk about a component, it's basically a user interface element which will have some user interface in the form of HTML, some styles defined in the form of CSS, and some logic which is written in the form of a TypeScript class. These three things will make up a component, and in a single application you can have hundreds of components. All these components can be put into modules, and a single application can have hundreds of modules with it. Are you getting the hierarchy, guys? At the topmost level in an Angular application, you're going to have modules. In each module you can have components, fine, and each component will have some HTML, some CSS with it, and some TypeScript code associated with it. Any confusion with this hierarchy, guys? Here is a sample of the components that an application may have, but it's not necessary that these should be the same components. Like here 4 are listed, in your application also 4 should be there. It varies from one application to another. You need to decide how many components are required, and it's better to always break down UI elements into smaller components so that you can manage them easily. Any confusion to anyone? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop today's session here itself. Fine, and we can take a look at the rest of the things related to Angular tomorrow. I hope this is clear to everyone. Alright. So I'll just stop the screen share. So how many people are not here today? Dinesh has taken permission, and Nikita has also taken permission that she will not be able to attend. What about others? Two more people are missing here, and who are those two more people? And guys, generally Angular is the framework which is mostly used for front end. Other one is React. These two are very famous and used. React is not a full-fledged framework. It's basically a library, whereas Angular is a complete framework. Angular is much more than React. Uh-huh. That sums up three. Who's the fourth person who's not here? Shirisha. Why she is not here? She did not even inform.